What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. Before we get into today's tech talk, I do just want to quickly mention, check out the Teespring link, guys. At the end of the month, we will be retiring some of these designs, possibly for good, just to bring in new designs to freshen things up, to try that. So check them out and do your thing, but I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to jump right into today's video. Cyber Dragon Tech Talk. Today we're going to cover 10 pretty popular techs that I've been seeing get bounced around the Cyber Dragon group, around YouTube, through the Discord, and being asked to me via PMs, things like that. So we're going to cover 10 of these, and keep in mind, guys, these are just my opinions. This is my competitive take on them. We're going to use 5 big categories, and that's how we're going to kind of judge them, if you will. So keep that in mind, guys. This is just my opinion. I won't discuss too much down below because, I mean, this is my discussion. This is my thoughts. This is how I feel, just like I've been commenting in the group about these cards. Some good, some bad, some okay. But I do want to know what you guys think, so make sure you guys click down below. Without further ado, let's start this off with an oldie but a goodie electromagnetic turtle. So for those of you who aren't aware, electromagnetic turtle, during your opponent's battle phase, a quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard at the end of the battle phase, and you can only use this once per duel. So it's a card that you want to dump to the graveyard to when your opponent tries to battle, you banish it and you end the battle phase and you survive another turn. So why do I rank this card the way that I do? Well, power level, it doesn't do anything power wise. It's a defensive card, so power, it really isn't there. There's no offense to this card whatsoever. Consistency, do you want to open this card? No, you can discard it with Naxter, you can discard it with Soldier. So I mean, it's not like it's dead in your hand. There are usable ways to get it into the graveyard, but otherwise you're making Rampage to send it to the graveyard as your way to kind of set it up, which means you're going through your Rampage and either burning that valuable Overload Fusion or going through your Verde turn 1, and then your opponent can really kind of, you know, ruin your board and take you down. So consistency, I don't think it really helps the consistency at all. It just kind of adds a dead card to the deck, if you will. It's discard fodder, that's essentially what it is, but that doesn't help consistency, and if anything, it's adding another card that doesn't really contribute to the combo. It's a card that you want to mill from your deck, so it actually hurts the consistency a little bit. As far as recovery, does it really offer much for recovery? I mean, you had to have opened decently well if you got it into the grave anyway, and at that point it's probably going to get negated, if we're going to be honest. Like versus competitive decks, they put out a negate before they ever get to the battle phase, so maybe you can bait stuff, maybe you can force negates, but I mean, I don't know, guys. Like personally, competitively speaking, it's not going to resolve probably 9 times out of 10. If it does, okay, that's awesome. Again, these are just my opinions. I don't see the value of it. It doesn't really offer a recovery play. It's essentially stall for 1 turn if it goes through, which it's just not going to go through very often. And that's really kind of it. Flexibility, there is none. It's you send it to the graveyard, you banish it to, you know, end the battle phase. That's it. That's what it does. There's no flexibility whatsoever. The next best thing is it's 1800 defense if you have to set it and pass turn. Like, it's not really flexible. It's one trick, and that's what it does. Grind game, not very good. You, again, in a super simplified state, you can banish it from the graveyard, I guess, but I mean, in that instance, you're probably so far behind that it's not going to do a whole lot. But I mean, I guess grind game, it does have that little bit of a boost, so I mean 1.5 stars. But overall, I really don't think E-Turtle is a very good card for the deck. Again, comment down below. Feel free to discuss and to say your opinions. What are your plays, if there's anything else that you are doing with it, because I just don't see the value of it, because at the high levels of play, it's going to get negated. It's not going to get forgotten about, because they'll still have a negate and still be able to stop it and still be able to win that turn. And that's kind of just how the game has, I guess, come. It's just, it doesn't really offer much value Bringing us to the next one, Cyber Eltanin comes in and out of formats, and for those of you, once again, who do not know, it cannot be normal summoned or set, which means a big thing, guys. You can search it with Cyber Emergency. It must be special summoned from your hand by banishing all light machine monsters from your field and graveyard. If this card let you choose how many to banish, and then that's how many cards on the field it would send, it would be broken. It would probably be a staple, but it banishes everything, and it just sends all face-up monsters your opponent, or all other face-up monsters, even if you control them, on the field to the graveyard. So it banishes all your light machines, which isn't too bad. It can fuel cyber load, you know, and if you have a way to special summon Naxter, you can use this and Naxter then into a Seeger, and using that cyber load for your Rampage. So there are plays, and there is some things that you can do with it. But anyway, I have the power level at 3.5 for this card because it is pretty strong and it can send everything. But the fact that it mandatory banishes your entire field and graveyard of light machines can be a little detrimental and really tunnel vision your plays into making sure it resolves while still allowing you to have a play that can win. The card can be very good. Like when we were in Thunder Dragon format, like playing 3 of this, at least siding them, was actually pretty good because they had built-in destruction protection and you couldn't search. So just like summon one Cyber Dragon and then Eltanin and send their field was really, really strong. Consistency. So you can search it out with Emergency, but again, I put it pretty low here, and this might be a point of discussion, but I don't have it too much higher because it is searchable, yes, but the fact is that you need to really, like, you need to cater your play to it. And like I said, you can just like discard something for like Naxter, summon, and go into like say All Mirage, banish your 2 in the grave at that point, or just the one Naxter if it shall be, summon this, send their field, and now you still have 2 monsters on board. Like you could go into a Verde play, things like that. But I mean, you really need to know which way you're going with your plays and focus your whole hand really into the Eltanin, unless you're just using it to beta negate, but at that point you also already banished your resources. And I think Cyber Dragons are just a deck that really needs to manage their resources well, and this is more of a last ditch. It's more of a I need to just blow your board up type card, so the consistency isn't necessarily there, but it can be very high impact. Recovery, so I would have put it a little bit higher, but it kind of hurts your recovery play too. Like we need our, well, we don't need it, but we heavily rely on our graveyard for things like banishing core, for reviving off Nova, for reviving with Rev System, for making Repair Plant live, and you know, Overflow too, another card that uses the graveyard. And while this card can be incredible recovery because it could actually win in the grind game, and I'm going to cover grind here with recovery, you top deck this late game, depending where the game state's at. If they don't have a disruption, if their life points are low, things like that, this card can absolutely just close out the game for you. It can be amazing, but there's just certain things, and I don't want to put it too much higher as far as recovery or grind, just because you are banishing that core, you are banishing your overflow materials, you are banishing your overload materials, and you're getting rid of these valuable resources where if this Eltanin banish and attack does not win you the game, there's a good chance your opponent's top deck, if they're playing a meta deck, is going to end up winning the game for them because they will ult this, and now you have nothing in the grave, no setup, no follow-up, nothing. So that is why I just went with 3.5s. And flexibility. The card's really bad going first, obviously. Going second, turn 1, it's pretty good. And as you get into that grind game, it does get some added benefit, if you will, but again, you're starting to get to that point where if you draw into it when your opponent has too many life points left, or where their board is still a little too well established, it's going to be a dead card. It's not going to be a card that's going to win you the game. It might be a card that sends their field and attacks for some damage, but then it can get outed. So as far as flexibility, I mean, I don't think it's really there. It needs to be a card that you resolve it when you want to, when you need to, and I do think as of right now it's a 1 of. Colossus kind of made it a 3 of because you couldn't search it out at that point, but right now you can search it with Emergency. If you're playing it, I would just play the 1 because it's not super flexible. It's kind of when you need it, you need it. When you want it, you want it. Go for it. So that is our take on Cyber Eltanin. The next one we are going to go with is none other than Gizmek Yata. Again, there's going to be 10 of these. There's 4 normal monsters, 3 spells, 1 trap, 2 extra deck monsters. So Gizmek Yata is our next one. It's going to be a mouthful, and I'm sure some of you do not know. You can special summon this card from your hand by attributing 1 normal summon monster. You can only use the following effects of it once per turn. During your main phase, if this card is normal or special summon, immediately after this resolves, normal summon 1 monster. If you do, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except monsters with the same original type. If this card is special summoned by its own effect is tributed, gain 2050 life points. So it can be good in time. There's something there. The power of this card, it doesn't really offer a power play. It doesn't really offer much for advantage because you're attributing the monster to summon it to gain, and this is going to go with consistency as well. You're attributing your normal summon monster to summon this in order to gain another normal summon, but we don't benefit from the normal summon. If you open Alistair Core and this, like pretty specifically like those hands, you can normal your Alistair and search out your invocation, and then Yata tribute the Alistair, and then normal your core, and I mean you'd kind of need another extender with that core. Now you're starting to get into plays where you might have some plays, but we're talking 3-4 card combos, and that's just not consistent. The deck, it doesn't help the deck get stronger. It doesn't help the deck with a power play, so I don't think the consistency or the power is really there. If anyone can tell me a 2-card combo with this card that's not or that is better than like our typical other combos, or some, I guess, not super typical ones, which I can't really give an example of because, you know, I'm kind of asking like, oh, is it better than a bad 2-card combo? Like, give me a 2-card combo with this. What does Core and Yata net you? Like, just Core, just Yata, just those 2 cards, what does it net you that's better than Infinity Dragoon? Like, just give me an example of a 2-card combo, and maybe I can change some of them rankings around. Recovery, there is none. It's a level 5. It's dead in hand if you top deck it. You need to either tribute summon it. You need to, like, you can special summon it from its way, but again, now you need a normal summon monster on the board. It doesn't offer any recovery plays whatsoever. Flexibility, it does have some though, because you can, you know, use it going first for whatever plays you're using it for, but it is actually good in time. That is a pretty big thing. I think there's other better cards that I would play if I'm going at a time, but Gizmek Yata is a card that can be good in time because it is searchable as well off of our repair plan. So grind game, just like recovery, there is none. It doesn't have a grind game. It doesn't help late game. It doesn't help as the game progresses. Bringing us to our final main deck monster, Vic Viper. Shoutouts to Insane Yugioh. He kind of put this card on the map. He played it with moderate success, actually, up into the regional level. So I don't know anyone who's really had a lot of success with it. I'd say he's probably the guy, and he is innovative and has great ideas. A lot of you already watch his videos as well, but if you don't, it's Insane Yugioh, or Insane Yugioh. Go check him out on YouTube. He does a lot of really good videos. Doesn't post super often, but when he does, they're on point. They're good videos. So Vic Viper T301. When an attack is declared involving your face-up monster and an opponent's monster, meaning if you attack or they attack you, either way it does not matter, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect once per turn. Other light machine monsters you control gain 1200 attack. So keep in mind, that's light machine. It doesn't boost rampage. That's our main win con. That's our main damage dealer, and it doesn't work with it. So other machine monsters you control, meaning this one does not boost itself. It actually works really good with Infernal Reckless Summon though, because you special summon it, and then you can summon out 2 more, which means, I mean, each Vic Viper is going to go up to 3600 because they will get boosted from the other copies. But then say if you have Infinity, it goes up by 3600. So it can pair up really nicely with a card like Infernal Reckless Summon. But that's kind of it. So power, it does have some power plays like I just explained to you with like Infernal Reckless Summon. Consistency, it's pretty easy to get it on board. You can discard it and get it from the graveyard, so it does have that. But I don't want to put the consistency really any higher, because you can consistently use this card, but it does not help the consistency of the deck whatsoever. So I feel like meeting right in the middle and putting it at a 3 is fair. Recovery plays, you get a free body. Like if you're in a bad position trying to come back and you declare an attack, you get it on board, you got a free body. Odds are that extra damage it's probably not going to do a whole lot. I guess at that point though, you could just, you summon it and you declare your attack, you summon it, and then a monster joined the field, so you would get a redeclare, and you could just opt not to and go right to main phase 2 and go into a Verde or something. So I mean, it does offer a little bit. I suppose maybe we could bump this to like a 2.5 for recovery. Flexibility, it's kind of an OTK helper. I don't want to say enabler, because it really doesn't enable it. It can help, it can push your light machines, but again, Rampage being a dark machine, I think holds this card back from actually being really, really good. If it just boosted machines, it would be crazy. Flexibility, but like grind, it doesn't really help in the grind game, because you need a little bit of a board. Like you top deck into it, you're getting down to the nitty gritty. Seeing this card isn't going to win you the game very often. It may happen here or there, but at a high level of play, I just see this card as more of a liability than a card that's going to help you win. Like I said, it will help you win here and there, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's going to help you win more than half of your games. But out of the main deck monsters, Cyber Eltanin is the best one that we showed today, and then I think Vic Viper is clear cut number 2. It's really not on Eltanin's level, but I do think it is much better than Yata or Turtle, because it actually might resolve and help advance your game a little bit. But to me, it helps in areas that the deck does not need help with, being more damage, and that is the big thing. The card is actually halfway decent, but it helps the deck where the deck does not need help, and that's what actually holds this card back. So, going on to a spell, Instant Fusion, the one of, pay 1,000 life points, special summon 1 level 5 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, but it cannot attack and destroy it during the end phase. This is treated as a fusion summon. Key words there. This card cannot cheat out Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. I've seen that way too many times, because this is treated as a fusion summon. Rampage must be fusion summoned by using those materials, so you cannot cheat out Rampage with instant fusion. Just to get that out of there, it enables a few different plays, which can be good. I think the power of this card is really good. It's at 1 for a reason. It's really strong. Not only can it give you restrict or millenniumize or Thousand Eyes, and give you the hand trap protection, it can give you a way to steal a monster, then you link into Anima and you can steal another. Or, so I mean, potentially it could out 2 cards if they don't negate either of it. Or you can get Panzer Dragon for a free pop, or a free level 5, or just a free body on board in general. Consistency is an amazing extender. It's only not higher than a 4 because, I guess this is more grind game / recovery. If you see this card late when you don't really have any other plays, you don't have Core Engraved to put the body on board, it's not going to do anything for you. Getting that 1 body, I mean, you could go for 1,000 Eyes and steal a monster, and then like Anima, steal a monster, or just 1,000 Eyes Anima, then steal the monster and keep the Anima because it won't be destroyed because it wasn't what was instant fusioned out. Like, it's got some lines of play, it's got some things. I don't think as the game goes on though that this is a card that you really want too much. Retort Fusion is also coming, which is basically Instant Fusion 2.0. And did we also say like you can go Sea Monster of Theseus with this and go into some like Ultimaya Sulking plays for like Crystal Wing or something like that. So I think the flexibility of this card, we already gave a bunch of examples how it's useful, is there. The consistency is there, the power is there. It's just, as the game progresses, it's a card you want to see less and less as the game breaks down and simplifies. But if you keep enough of an advantage, it is still good as the game goes on. I think Instant Fusion is really good. I like it. I actually was playing it really recently. It's just committing extra deck space to a 1 of. Currently, if you decide to play this card, I would only run the Panzer Dragon and call it a day. we mentioned it earlier, Infernal Reckless Summon. When exactly one monster is with 1500 or less attack is special summoned to your field, while your opponent controls a monster, special summon as many as possible with the same name. Keep in mind, the moment Fear summons to the field, it gets its boost. It has 1600 attack, not 15, so Fear will not trigger Infernal Reckless Summon. Ways you can trigger it: banish Core, summon Hers or Naxter or Core. You can Rev System anything back. You can Nova back one of the smaller Cyber Dragons. These are all ways that you can trigger Infernal Reckless Summon. And then your opponent obviously also special summons as many as possible with one of their face-up monsters. If they only have extra deck monsters, though, they don't get to summon anything. There's certain lines of play where you can make like Clifford Genius first, then Infernal Reckless summon to both of Genius's arrows, and then you can search out your Kaiju, one of the two monsters they just gained. The one is probably in face-up attack position if you're going second, which means you can make an Infinity, absorb it, and all of a sudden they only have one left again. Like, they may have gained two, but you Kaiju'd one, made your own fortress, and you Infinity absorbed one, so now they only have one left, and it's a little easier to deal with. I think this card has potential. I've actually been meaning to do an updated build with it. I always kind of said it's like a higher risk, higher reward machine duplication. The power's insane. Like, you can summon, like, discard a Cyber Dragon, summon Naxter, Infernal Reckless Summon, and just bring back 3 Cyber Dragons and the one you discarded if it was like Hers or Core, and you can just summon, you know, a complete board of Cyber Dragons just like that. Like, the power of this card's insane. Consistency, your opponent more often than not is going to have a monster, but sometimes they won't, and sometimes you won't be able to special summon a monster, and for that reason, consistency kind of gets held back. Recovery, I almost could have gave it a 4.5, because you top deck into this in a simplified game state, especially grind game. Grind, I did mean to put 4.5 because this card is actually really, really good in the grind. You top deck into this with Core in the grave, and your opponent doesn't have a negate, but they have a few monsters on board. Banish Core, summon like anything, really anything, and then you chain Infernal Reckless to it, and all of a sudden you have a full board of Cyber Dragons once again, and odds are you're in the better position than your opponent is. So the grind game is actually really good. Flexibility, I guess we could have went a little higher here too, even, because again, you can use it going second, you can use it earlier in the game, you can use it in the middle of the game, you can use it in the late portions of the game. It's not always going to be on the same impact level because, again, it's pretty easy to negate. It's giving your opponent advantage and cards as well, so you need to have a way to handle their monsters. You need a way to get rid of their monsters. You know, Dragoon can pop 2 of them, so as long as they're not summoning out more negates or more disruption, you can actually burn and do a lot of damage. Infernal Reckless Summon can be really, really good, and since you're getting a field of monsters, you know you will be able to make a Dragoon. So this is our take on Infernal Reckless Summon. The last spell, I kind of want to try playing around with these a little more. I have a couple good friends who play them, swear by them, love them, and I really can't blame them. Interrupted Kaiju Slumber is a very, very strong card. Destroy as many monsters on the field as possible, then summon in attack position 2 Kaiju monsters with different names. So no, if the Wind Barrier lock is on the field, you cannot use Kaiju Slumber because there are not 2 Wind Kaijus with different names, so it is not possible to resolve it at the time of activating it. They can't change their battle positions, must attack if able, but usually you're clearing them out. The main play with this would be like give your opponent Jizukiru and give yourself like Gamma Seal, because then any Cyber Dragon and Jizukiru makes Fortress, and Gamma Seal makes Dingirsu, send a card, and well, that's kind of that. Like, you get a free Dingirsu, you get a free rank 8, and that's, yeah. So power of this card's insane. You're blowing up a board, and other than the turn it's sent to the graveyard, you can even banish it from the graveyard and search out a Kaiju. Who thought searching out a Kaiju would be a bad thing? Like, card's crazy, card's good. Consistency, you have to be able to destroy monsters. Drawing it, I guess, again, we're probably kind of harsh on some of these. Consistency, I put at 2.5 though, because you need a play to out the kaijus, but luckily, you know, we have Fortress, so Jizukiru kind of plays into that pretty big. Since this is more of a Cyber Dragon focused video, as in Cyber Dragon Tech Talk, I do think we should have given it more consistency. That was more of a general, you need a way to out their kaiju that you give them, but again, we have Fortress Dragon, so that's pretty easy to do. Recovery, it offers pretty good recovery option actually, because again, in the case of a simplified or late game or a way when they can't negate it but they have definite advantage over you, you just give them the smaller kaiju, give you the bigger one, and attack over it, and now you're once again back in the power position. Flexibility, it can be used later game, but ideally it's a card you want to open and use sooner. Flexibility, I guess banishing from the graveyard could bump that up a little bit, because you know, you use it, you break their board, and they build a little bit of a board back. Well, now you can banish it from your graveyard next turn and either force a negate or get a kaiju and out a negate. Grind game, again, I guess a little harsh, could have been a little bit higher, but we already said pretty much the reasons that the grind game can be good, banishing from the graveyard, and those reasons, searching out a kaiju. Getting close. 3 more to go. 7 down. I didn't write any of this down, by the way. I had a lot more I planned on saying and talking about them, and had it a little more organized. But yeah, I decided to record the video and just hopefully remember everything I could. So this is all right off the top of my head. And Cyber Network. So this card with Summon Sorceress actually had some cute plays. Destroy this card during your 3rd standby phase after activation once per turn. If Cyber Dragon is on the field, banish 1 light machine monster from your deck. So you're banishing from your deck. If Cyber Dragon's on the field, when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, special summon as many of your banished light machine monsters as possible. There it is. And if you do, destroy all spell and traps you control. Monsters that were special summoned by this effect cannot activate their effects. That's okay as well. You cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this. So the play for it, the power is insane. Like, you just spam out monsters. That's obvious. The power is insane. The consistency is just as insanely bad. Because how did you actually resolve this? What was the play with it? Well, you either had to open a 4-card combo or open core, dupe, overload fusion. So opening 2 unsearchable cards it's not consistent at all. You need a way to both banish a bunch and pop it all in the same turn, and it was not consistent. But it was fun. The boards we created with this card with Summon Sorcerers, you know, the old Griffin combo, things like that, like, it was fun while it lasted. I don't see any competitive value from this card anymore. Recovery play, we did give it a little bit better, because hey, you know, you have a bunch of banished monsters and you set it and they pop it and it goes to the graveyard, you get to summon them. So it's got a little bit of recovery. Flexibility, it's really not there. It's a combo that you want to open not very consistently and build your board. That's kind of the goal of it. Grind game, again, it has that 1 recovery option, but other than that, it doesn't offer anything in the grind game. And I gave it a half star because if your opponent doesn't do anything, neither does this card. Extra deck monsters, lots and lots of talk. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. So essentially you cheat this out with Verde sending Red Eyes Fusion, sending Dark Magician and Red Eyes. Yes, you must send Red Eyes. We're not getting into that. So essentially it's an Omni negate, discard a card, negate and destroy, gains 1000 attack for every negate and destroy it does. It must actually destroy it. If it's a graveyard effect activates, you negate it. You can't destroy a card already in the graveyard, so you do not gain the attack boost. But it can also, if you use Dark Magician and Red Eyes, because they're normal monsters, pop 2 cards every turn and burn for their original attack. If, say, you pop a Mega Fleet, its original attack is 0 once it's in the graveyard and gets checked, so keep an eye out for cards like that. But anyway, yeah, the power of this card it's not unknown. Like, this card is insane. It's banned in the OCG. If more tier 1 decks relied on it, it would probably be banned too. Fortunately for the decks that need this card, most tier 1 decks do not play it. Eldritch is probably the biggest exception to that, but even them, they never like dedicated in the Eldritch group. Like, Dragoon build is the best build. They always had competing builds, one of them being Dragoon. Consistency, you're running 3 pseudo bricks, if you will. If you open them, it's not the worst thing in the world. If you open Red Eyes Fusion, it may or may not be. If you don't have like a hand trap or two and Red Eyes Fusion, you're in a bad spot. Dragoon Pass is not good right now. There's so many ways to out it, whether that's Kaiju's, Dark Ruler, Droplet, Talents. Like, there's so many ways to get over Dragoon, just beating over it. Recovery play, if you draw Red Eyes Fusion late, that's a recovery play. Like, I don't know, it doesn't have a whole lot of recovery. It's kind of flexibility. It's there because you can use it going first, you can use it going second. This card alone can be an OTK. When you burn twice and attack for potentially 4,000, like if they had two monsters over 2k, you just won the game off of one Dragoon. That's it. So flexibility, going first, going second. If you can get to it early or late, it's all good. Grind game, I didn't put the grind game very high because really the only way to grind with this card is you open really awkwardly and the game never gets to that point where you summon Verde earlier, or you draw into your Red Eyes Fusion late game, and again the game is kind of awkward. So it's pretty much a card that comes out really early and really often, so I don't think the grind is necessarily there, but the power of this card is crazy. The consistency, we can consistently make it, and it helps us with a turn 1 board. It helps us with OTKing, so I think the consistency is good, but because you are playing 3 bricks, I couldn't give it more than a 3.5. Do you need to play Dragoon to win? No, you do not. And make sure you hit that notification bell if you're not already subscribed. Do that as well. Our pure Cyber Dragon deck will be up here within a few days or within a week or so. I don't know. I need to find the time to record it because I have a few other projects that will come up first. But we've been grinding Dueling Book and doing pretty decently well. For some reason, Yugioh decided not to show our 9-win streak, which is unfortunately, the replays like skip an entire week of us testing. So that's really unfortunate. But anyway, we've been playing no Dragoon a ton, and I believe now we're up to 14-4 overall. So the deck's doing really well without Dragoon, and we'll show you our list soon. One more card. AA Zeus. The video's gone a little bit longer than I wanted it, but anyway, so if an XYZ monster battled this turn, it does not need to be your own. You can battle into an XYZ monster, main phase 2, make your own, and then you can use an XZ you control as material, transferring its material to this card. Quick effect, attach 2 materials, send all cards from the field to the graveyard. Once per turn, if another card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can attach 1 card from your hand, deck, or extra deck to this card. That effect gets overlooked all the time, but it's a way to keep materials on it. If you use things like make your infinity, absorb a monster, go into Gaia Thunder, you can make a 3 or I should say 6 material Zeus relatively easily. So power 4.5, because it's very, very strong. I guess you could argue that it's a 5. The only reason I don't have it as 5 is because the little bit of setup that it takes, which plays more into the consistency. But we can make a XYZ and attack really easily, right? Yes, we can. But like, then you need to determine, like, say you can end Infinity, Hand Trap, Overflow, Pop Multiple. You don't really need to go into this card. It's not a card that helps consistency. It's not a card that really pushes the deck anywhere. It just gives it mostly gives a good option versus control type decks as far as how I view the deck, or how I view Zeus. When I was playing it, I would summon it versus like Eldritch, versus Altergeist, versus cards like these, because it's not once per turn, it's not once per chain even, which is the broken part. This card absolutely deserves to be limited. Not ban worthy, not at all, not even close. Limited though, yes. So Zeus, recovery, all you need to do is make an XYZ, and then you can go into this, and in a simplified game state, this card wins you the game hands down. Flexibility, it's not really, you can't summon it until after you start doing things, but you can use it at any point after that, so long as you can make an XYZ and attack. So the flexibility is kind of there, kind of not. Same with the grind. Like, you need to be able to make an XYZ with multiple materials and attack with it to make it. So there's a lot of setup that it needs as the game breaks down. The best way to take advantage of that as the game is, say, broken, would be Banish Core, Summon Naxter in attack position, Revive Infinity, Absorb Naxter, attack, and then overlay into your AA Zeus with 2 materials for at least 1 send. But yeah, that's kind of Zeus. So sorry the video went a little bit long, and I actually was a little ill prepared, but I think I covered them pretty well. Again, these are my takes, my opinions, my thoughts. Let me know down below what your thoughts are and discuss with each other. Feel free to. But yeah, so 10 here. Let us know. I do want to hear what other techs would be good for next time. We have suggestions such as Ultra Poly, Power Bond, and others like that. So let us know down below what other techs should we talk about next time. Thanks for watching. Remember, hit that button if you want to see the deck profile. Take care, guys.